ఇక్కడ కొన్ని మార్పులు వస్తున్నాయి. There were certain changes in the very nature of the British in this particular period. The nature of trade was changed. Nature of trade was changed. What was the nature of trade here? Earlier, what they used to procure? Manufactured goods or the finished goods. Now, they started procuring raw material, not the manufactured goods. In place of textiles, they started procuring cotton, indigo, rubber, etc. The manufactured goods were not preferred in this phase. Instead of that, raw material began to be procured by them. Next, the nature of change going to be, nature of trade going to be changed here completely. Instead of bringing their capital from the mother country, they started using the capital which they have acquired in India from taxes. The income acquired from the taxes in the country was used as the investment. They were not bringing the gold, no longer bullion is bringing into India. Instead of that, they started raising the capital in India only, because by that time they have acquired political power in the country. They acquired political power in India, which has enabled them to realize the taxes, to collect the taxes, which began to be used for what you call the capital. Nature of trade was completely changed. Okay. Since they have acquired political power here, they started discrimination of Indian products was started. Discrimination of Indian products was started. Export from India, as part of this discrimination, export from India was discouraged. Exports from India was discouraged. Go on writing, discouraged by imposing higher taxes and the imports into India were encouraged by abolition of import duties are the nominal duties. Duties means taxes. Nominal duties. Write in the bracket. Duality of taxation. This is called duality of taxation. Okay. Duality of taxation. What was the reason for the change of the nature of trade by the British in the second phase? What reason was caused for the change of the nature of trade? ఎందువల్ల రెండవ దశలో బ్రిటిష్ వాళ్ళ వ్యాపార స్వభావంలో మార్పులు వస్తున్నాయి. ఎందుకు మార్పులు వస్తున్నాయంటే ఒక రెండు రీజన్స్ ఇక్కడ. The two reasons which were responsible for the change of nature of trade. Two reasons were responsible here. First reason was outbreak of industrial revolution in Britain. First reason was outbreak of industrial revolution in Britain. The Britain has experienced industrial revolution in the middle of 18th century. In the middle of 18th century. What happens with that? Everywhere in Britain, numerous mills, textile mills, numerous industries, factories were set up. The British have enough capital. They have enough capital so that the industries have been set up on wide scale in Britain. They were set up on large scale. If you look at Manchester, one of the cities in Britain, at Manchester alone, 200 textile mills were set up within no time. That was the case with the many of the cities of Britain. In every city, numerous industries, factories went on set up, which is to be function on the machines. They have enough capital which has enabled them to set up numerous industries there. Though they have capital with which they could set up the industries, then what about the raw material? Britain is a small country. If you compare the Britain with one of the states of India, it is just equal to our modern day Bihar. It's just equal to our modern day Bihar. In size, I am talking about geographical extent. It is just equal to geographically our Bihar. But they have set up industries like anything, which was quite unmatched with the geographical extent of Britain. Since they were available with the capital, they could do that. But coming to the raw material, they do not have the required raw material to feed these industries. That's why by 1750 onwards, due to the outbreak of the industrial revolution, they started procuring raw material to feed their industries. To feed the industries that were set up in Britain, they were in bad need of raw material. So, on the other hand, India, the vast country with large-scale agricultural lands, with ample potential of producing the raw material, appeared to be a suitable the source for acquiring the raw material for them. That's why they prefer to procure the raw material here rather than the finished or manufactured goods. That was the one reason. Then they have established the industries and started getting the raw material from India. By consuming this raw material, their industries went on functioning, went on producing the products. Then, who used to consume the products that were produced by these factories and industries? The population of Britain was hardly 1 crore. It was 1 crore in those days. Whereas in India, we have the vast quantity of population. The population of India in those days itself nearly 20 crores, 20 to 25 crores. So, India can be a best consumer for their manufactured goods. India can be converted into a market for their factories. That was a change of the nature. They started procuring raw material from India, with the help of which industries used to function. The manufactured goods used to be produced. These manufactured goods again going to be dumped into India. Bharat Desham nunchi villu, they used to obtain the manufactured goods earlier. Now they have stopped that. And despite that, they went on pouring their manufactured goods over Indian markets. Indian markets engulfed with the manufactured goods of the British industries. So the first reason for the change of their nature of trade was outbreak of industrial revolution. And added to that, the second reason, acquisition of political power in country. Acquisition of political power in India. At the same time, when the industrial revolution was occurring in Britain, the British East India Company emerged as the political power in India. 1757, the Battle of Plassey was fought at the same time when industrial revolution was affecting the Britain. So slowly the political power went on strengthened by the British East India Company in India. So by the time they have established the industrial revolution, established the factories, industries in their mother country, the political power in India passed into the hands of the British East India Company. So this political power has been used by them in order to meet the needs of the mother country. They supported the mother country's need, the economy of the Britain's need, so that Indian trade completely going to be changed. So these were the reasons for the change of the trading activity of the British. We need to see the second phase by dividing the second phase into what you call 3 stages again. In the second phase also, you can see 3 stages actually. Okay. The second the second phase, which commences in 1757 and goes up to 1947, was called by the Marxist historians as a colonial phase. Colonial phase. It was called by the Marxist historians as a colonial phase. So by that time India was just converted into a colony by the British, and the purpose of the colony is to serve the need of the mother country, that means Britain. It's a colonial phase. Colonialism is a new concept which was introduced by Karl Marx. Colonialism. It's a new concept introduced by Karl Marx. He has introduced this concept to explain the exploitation of African and Asian countries, exploitation of African and Asian countries by the developed European countries. To explain the exploitation of the backward nations of Africa and Asia. The concept of colonialism was evolved by Karl Marx. And Karl Marx here has tried to explain how these backward nations of Asia and Africa were exploited, were looted, plundered by the European countries. And he has applied, the Indian historians, the Indian Marxist historians have applied the Karl Marx theory to India also, because India was also made as a colony by the British. They tried to explain the colonialism in the context of India. So in the second phase, we have 3 stages. Second phase can be studied by dividing into 3 stages. What are these 3 stages in the second phase? In each one of the stage, the nature of trade again going to be changed, causing the intensification of ruination of Indian economy, causing the intensification of exploitation of Indian economy, finally depriving the Indian economy fully out of its resources. రెండవ దశ ఏదైతే ఉందో ఇందులో మనకు మళ్ళీ 3 ఉపదశలు కనిపిస్తాయి. ఈ 3 ఉపదశల్లో ఒక్కొక్క దశకు బ్రిటిష్ వారి దోపిడీ అనేటువంటిది, వారి యొక్క వ్యాపార విధానాలు అనేటివి పూర్తిగా మారిపోతూ భారత ఆర్థిక వ్యవస్థను నిర్వీర్యం చేస్తూ, భారత ఆర్థిక వ్యవస్థను పూర్తిగా దోపిడీ చేస్తూ, చివరికి భారత ఆర్థిక వ్యవస్థ పూర్తిగా పతనం కావడానికి బ్రిటిష్ వాళ్ళు కారకులవుతున్నారు. బ్రిటిష్ వాళ్ళు చేసిన దోపిడీ అంతా ఈ 3 దశలలో మనం గమనించవచ్చు. By the time the British have entered into India, Mughals were the rulers. When the Mughals were the rulers in the country, The India's GDP, the share of India's GDP, in the world GDP, when the British have entered into India at the time of the Mughal Empire, the Mughal rule, the share of India's GDP in the world GDP was 23%. 23%. Our share in the world GDP was 23%. But when they left India in 1947, this share was reduced to 3% only. It got reduced to 3%. What is the share of India's GDP in the world GDP today? Inta? 8. తెలిసి చెప్తున్నారా తెలియక చెప్తున్నారా? Less than 2%. It is less than 2%. Not even 2, less than 2%. అలాంటిది at the time of the entry of the British into India, when the Mughals were the rulers, 23% was the share of India's GDP in the world GDP. That means India was the rich country in those days. India was the topmost country in terms of GDP rate. But the British have ruined the Indian economy because of their exploitative methods, exploitative policies. Indian economy, each and field of Indian economy went on ruined, destructed by the British. Indian industries were destructed. Indian agriculture was destructed. Indian manufacture was ruined. This is how the whole of Indian economy was completely ruined by the British. With the result, the GDP rate got reduced from 23 to 3% only. And following the bifurcation, the partition issues that India has faced from 1947 onwards, India could not be recovered speedily with the partition issues. The partition has brought so many issues, so many problems. India could not recover out of that. With the result, the GDP went on declining. It went nearly to 1% only. Later, after the new economic policy introduced by P.V. Narasimha Rao and Manmohan Singh governments, there was some change in the share. And now it is hardly 2%. That was the issue. So, the 3 stages that need to be discussed in the second phase can be resumed tomorrow. We can continue it tomorrow. We can continue it tomorrow.